Thank you very much. So part 2 of the West Cork Mafia on tour today. And it wasn't planned by us at all, so you can't blame us. Here today to talk to you about the Ludgate Hub. It's Ireland's first rural digital hub. And just, I suppose, for anyone who's not totally familiar with where we are probably a long way from a lot of places. 4.5-hour drive from Dublin, and it's now turned into about an hour and a half's drive from Cork. So it's difficult enough to get there, and road networks obviously are not wonderful. It's the most southerly town in Ireland. We've got a population of just under 2,800, so a small town. Luckily, I suppose our narrative is different to a lot of other towns in that we're not looking at banks closing, guard stations, post offices, that kind of thing. In ways, we are a town on the up, where our population is, as I said, is increasing. But crucially, I suppose the 13 to 18 year population, that's increased by about 33% over the last 2 censuses, and the 25 to 44% population has increased by 7%. So that, I suppose, is key to what we're doing, and it builds into the history of why Ludgate and how it all came about. The first conversation in relation to it happened towards the end of 2014. It was at the end of one of our other great festivals, the Taste of West Cork, which is the food festival, and a local businessman, John Field, who had for years been trying to do something about the brain drain, about the flow of young people out of West Cork. How could we stop that, bring people back, and then attract new people into the area? And there was a conversation then about, would a digital hub be the thing that would actually rescue Skibbereen from that perspective? So that initial meeting happened then. There was a decision then to see how much local support there would be for that, because like I think all of the stories that we hear today, having a community and local people at the core is actually really key to the success of any venture like this. So a committee was put together then. Locally, John identified 4 entrepreneurs in the town who came on board, and then a number of other national figures, all of whom had a connection into West Cork. So most of them are originally from West Cork, have holiday homes down there, come back very regularly, and they came together. They formed a committee. The work began in early 2015, and within a year the hub was open. And the building was donated by John Field. It was all fitted out then on the basis of private investment into it. So there was no government support to it at that stage. And the first government support we got was last November, when we got money under the Town and Village Renewal Scheme, and we're actually doing work just at the moment now and hoping to get that finished for that timeline at the end of this month in, I suppose, building our capacity within the building. And I suppose one of the things we'll focus on today that's relevant to here is the whole success of Ludgate being dependent on the new and the connectivity and the digital world, while at the same time respecting and paying homage to the history and the heritage of the building. And this is the building itself. And you can probably tell by looking at it, it was a former cinema. So from the 1940s until the 80s, it was the Skibbereen cinema. It was then closed for a number of years. John Field opened it then as a bakery and ran it as Field's Bakery until the early 2000s, and again it closed at that stage. So as the building was fitted out and as we upgraded it, what we tried to do was pay homage to that. You can possibly see just in front of the very glamorous wheelie bin that we've kind of maintained the old bakery sign, and that's still there. And yet when you walk in, the first thing you see is Skibbereen as Ireland's first 1 gigabit town. And the whole fit out of the office has been to the most modern standards that are there. This is our co-working space. And in this space then we have a number of startups that are there, a number of companies that people running their own companies. We have a hot desking area, which this time of the year is in great demand, and it's an awful lot of people extending their long weekends and the holidays in West Cork by being able to come in and use it. We also have state-of-the-art video conferencing facilities, so people who are down on holidays can connect back into the office, they can attend meetings virtually, and it saves them having to go back to Cork or to Dublin or wherever they might be based. So again, just in paying homage to the building, the old projectors had stayed on the premises all the way through, even when it was a bakery, and they were sent away and we got them upgraded, and they're just there again as part of a tribute to the building. We've also found the old projectionists who still live in Skibbereen, and we've done a video with them about what it was like working there. And again, that's preserved and on our YouTube station, our channel even. This is a very bad photograph of the projection room, and again, it's now turned into a small meeting room. But again, it's just as we go along to preserve that link with the history of the building. And again, we have a number of, probably about 20-25 film posters. A lot of these are films that were shown in the cinema at the time when it was running, or they've been donated by David Putnam, who, as well as being involved with the Fastnet Festival, is also on our board and was Ireland's first digital champion. So he was appointed by the Minister for Communications, I suppose, to promote the whole digitisation in Ireland, and to spread the word that it's not just about either young people or about big techie companies, but that digitisation is key to improving the quality of life for everybody in the country. So where are we now? We've got 51 people based in the hub, and 24 companies there at any given stage. That kind of changes as people come and people go. We've had one of our startups leave last month. They started in November last year with 3 people working on developing software for GDPR, the new data protection regulation that's just come in. They grew to 12 by the middle of April. So they were actually so successful that they had to move on and move into a new premises in town. We've had the first satellite office of a Dublin company set up. They moved in May 2017 with 4 people. And in ways, it was a kind of a suck it and see, testing the concept for them to see whether or not, at such a remove from Dublin, they could actually successfully have part of their company run there. And the hope had been that if it was successful, they'd double by May of 2018. They thankfully doubled by October of last year, so significantly ahead of schedule. They went 24/7 in November. They're now at 12 and they're moving to 22 people in total. So for us, it's a great proof of concept that location and geography is irrelevant, that if you have the connectivity and you have a company think logically about how they could take part of this, a standalone element of that company, and locate it outside of the headquarters of that company, that it can actually work. So it's given us great scope then to work with the IDA, with Enterprise Ireland, and to show that this as a concept can actually be really successful. Looking then at the attractions of Ludgate and of Skibbereen generally, and it's one of the things, I suppose, when we're selling the town, and there's a number of different things that we've identified. Some are common to a number of towns and you'd be able to identify with them yourselves, and others then are probably, I don't know whether they'd be unique, but they're certainly something that we wouldn't share with all towns. The whole issue of commercial rent, we've all seen the stories of the shortage of accommodation. I suppose that it's at a crucial level at this stage in Dublin. It's now the same in Cork. And when companies can actually find office space, it's at an astronomical rent as well. So that's one of the advantages, I suppose, that a lot of towns in this room would share. We have easy access as well to a talent pool. Back in November 2016, there was a digital conference in Skibbereen, and the question came up to a panel which included the IDA, and it was, what are you doing to bring jobs to Skibbereen? And the answer came back, which it always does from the IDA, is you have to show us that you have the talent to actually attract companies in the first place. We can't bring them down to show them somewhere like this unless we know that there is that ready availability of talent. So we devised a database, and we have about 500 people globally subscribed to it now. Large numbers of I suppose the West Cork diaspora, who have expressed an interest in moving back to West Cork if there was a job there for them, or in mentoring a company or a startup that would start in West Cork. And we have them by location, but more crucially by profession and their qualification, their languages, that kind of thing. And that was one of the keys to having Excelco, which is the Dublin-based company, set up its satellite office in the town. So that's one of the things, and we're working on that now at the moment to refine that and to update it. Low attrition rates, and that's been one of the things that we found in any of the companies that are there. People who come back to work in West Cork want to live there, they want to work there, and they tend to stay there, and they have a loyalty then to the company, which has, I suppose, enabled them in a way to get back to where they want to live. And again, just anecdotally, stories from Dublin, from Cork, from the bigger towns where there's a lot of poaching for key skills at the moment. It's not one of the things that companies need to worry about. And then, of course, the lower cost of housing and the cost of living. We're working on that now at the moment, getting stats from the CSO, just so we can actually put a figure on it. How much can people save by actually moving to West Cork from Dublin, from Cork City itself? I moved down myself in September of last year. And I mean, there is an appreciable difference in the cost of living there. So as I said, it's just for us to continue to be able to sell Skibbereen and West Cork as a location. It's one of the things we need to put a figure on. The connectivity obviously is key. When Ludgate was, I suppose, an idea in people's heads, Vodafone and the ESB came together to form a partnership called Cyro, and they were rolling out 1 gig connectivity to 15 towns in Ireland at the time. Skibbereen wasn't on the list, and the board negotiated with Cyro. I suppose they pointed out the momentum that there was behind Ludgate in getting something up and running, convinced Cyro that this was the case, and we ended up from not being on the list to being the first town in Ireland that had the connectivity. So that's actually been a huge attraction in bringing companies down. I've shown you the workspace earlier on in the photograph. So that's, again, just having a modern, bright, airy workspace. There's a great sense of community within it. A lot of the startups now have, I suppose, organically come together to work on different projects. So you could have a graphic designer and an app designer come and work on a project, where if they weren't there and having that interaction with each other every day wouldn't necessarily happen. We also have our own seed fund. We have a fund of up to €500,000 available, again through private investment to startups. And again, it's about job creation and creating a sustainable environment in West Cork. And I suppose it's the same as any other investment fund. If the idea is good, the investors then talk to the startup, and in return for a share of equity, then an amount of money is given and invested in the company. But on top of that, we also have a very strong mentoring system, and the board, we have a 13-person board that works on a pro bono basis, and they provide mentoring on an ongoing basis then to the startups that are there. Sean O'Driscoll, people will know from Glendimplex, is available on a monthly basis and has one-on-one sessions with a lot of the startups there. The board are available to them on a regular basis as well, and anywhere where the board feel that they can actually help a startup with contacts, with introductions, whatever it might be, and a lot of the time it's just advice on what happens next, or I'm at this stage in my business, and it's the kind of issues that startups everywhere have. But I suppose it's unique in terms of that level of support and expertise being available. The other thing we sell as well is the whole attraction of West Cork, and you've got a flavour of that from the ladies from Schull earlier on. It's an incredible place to live. There's a certain magic about it, and people have been drawn into it from about, I suppose, the 70s when people started to move down there. So at this stage now, it's quite a diverse population. It's from a scenery point of view, it's incredible. We've got incredible food producers down there, and just an amazing amount of festivals and community activities happening. And we're just after recovering from the film festival. Last weekend there was the country festival as well as a music festival on Shirk and one of the other islands. There is the wooden boat festival we just had, the fiddle festival, and it just continues all the way from April through to September, and it's just an incredible place to live. And there's just a great quality of life there, and I mean, I suppose I vouch for that. And I had hoped that eventually, at some stage, that we would move to Cork, to West Cork, myself and my husband, but never actually thought that there'd be a job there, that we could relocate at this stage and do that. So that's been just a, I suppose, a real privilege to be able to do that. One thing that, I suppose, another thing that distinguishes Ludgate from a lot of other hubs that operate on a commercial basis is our sense of community. We really feel that we're not just about a building, we're not just about the people who are in the hub. So we work very closely with the schools. We've had, what was it, at least 40, probably increased this year now, of transition year students through, working with us, working with the companies, and we're working to give them a much more unique experience now than you'd get if you were just going in for a TY elsewhere. We also deliver entrepreneurship and tech modules to them as well. We support Coder Dojo. And looking at the impact then, our last stats that go back to early 2017 are looking at over €11 million impact into the economy, which is significant for a small town like Skibbereen. The 1 gig has also had a big impact on local companies in terms of its productivity. There's a local furniture maker, and they have, I suppose, they found themselves a niche market. They supply furniture to high-end hotels, so they would have done the upgrade of Dromoland recently, but they also do high-end luxury cruise liners. So that's obviously dependent on designs over and back. And before the connectivity came in 2016, it would take them a day to send their draft plans to their client. Nothing else happened from a techie perspective. There was no emails, nothing else went in. They are now turning that around incredibly quickly, and they've had a 25% increase in productivity over the past 2 years, just based on the 1 gig connectivity coming in. We also have a company in Skibbereen called Spearline, and they are the world's biggest testers of toll and toll-free numbers. So all the 1800, 1850 numbers that we all ring, they do the testing on behalf of the companies that provide them. They're looking at an 8 to 10% in productivity and an increase in employees of about 25% again since the connectivity came in. So it's had an impact across the town, and it's not just specific companies. All 2,500 premises now across the town of Skibbereen have access to that. Ludgate has also been cited in the Action Plan for Jobs in the South West Region report on that as the only case study there in terms of the impact that we've had on the community. And as well as the economic impact and the money that we're bringing into the economy, one of the really important things that we're looking at is the sociological impact. We've brought families back into the area. Like in the last couple of weeks, we've had one family moved back. They're both working for different companies in Cork City, and the companies have now taken desks in Ludgate. So the couple have moved with their child, sold their house in Cork City, and they've moved back across. The month before that, we had a couple relocate from London, having been 15 years there. So, and that's the kind of impact that we want to see happening across West Cork. So what we're looking to do is work with UCC. We have a great partnership with them on a number of different projects, but to see if we can get a master's or a PhD student funded to actually work on this and look at the sociological impact and what Ludgate and the 1 gig connectivity has actually made, the difference that it's made to West Cork and to Skibbereen. Our plans then, where we're going to go next, this is not about a building. It's not even just about Skibbereen, it's about West Cork. And our goal is to facilitate the creation of 500 sustainable jobs in West Cork. And some of those we will help create directly within Ludgate itself by supporting startups, by giving companies an environment in which they can operate. We're not going to create them ourselves. Like, there's me and a hub manager, and that's it. So there's 2 of us. There will only ever be 2 or 3 of us, so that's the jobs aren't going to come from that. So we're working at the moment on plans as to how we move that forward. So as I said, 500 direct jobs, and it's an ambitious target, and we're hoping to achieve that by the end of 2020. So we'll watch this space and see how that goes. We've just finished a summer school where we partnered with UCC, and we had students from University of Massachusetts in Boston, National University of Columbia, from El Salvador, Cuba, Germany and Ireland, and it was a multidisciplinary summer school on sustainability, with the theme being global goals and local actions. So UCC provided the theoretical input into it. Also the students and the academics did a couple of days in UCC talking about the theory of sustainability, and then we brought them to West Cork and showed them sustainability and how it operates across the traditional economic activities of fishing, farming, food and tourism. So that, and we're hoping to build on that again. We're doing a partnership at the moment with the local community school, and what our vision is that if you're a child growing up in Skibbereen, and you're in the Ireland's first one gig town, and you have Ireland's first rural digital hub on your doorstep, how you learn and what you learn should give you a huge advantage in terms of your digital literacy, and that if we can support them with digital learning, but also with entrepreneurial modules and with placements as they go through their schooling, that when they come to the end of either second level or third level and they're looking with ideas of what they want to do, start-up ideas, that their natural inclination is to come back to West Cork. And even if people go travelling after college and whatever, but that they know that there's a base for them in West Cork and that we're part of making all of that happen. We're also very keen on promoting the area, working with government and with government agencies to show that sustainable communities can be created outside the capital, and to, I suppose, emphasise the importance of the 1 gig connectivity and the importance of broadband for communities as well. And ultimately, it's about building a sustainable community in West Cork. So thank you, and I'll take any questions very happily.